Hello, everyone. Welcome to Broadband News. The FCC has issued a notice of inquiry requesting comments on the practices, customer service practices of broadband operators, cable and satellite TV operators, voice service providers, and this certainly could lead to some additional regulations from the FCC, but the election may have an impact on that as well. Be right back with more. Hey, thanks for joining me. Rick Husey here with Zcorum with Broadband News. So I want to let you know about this. I linked to this page in the description of the video. So here you've got a news release, which I'll take a look at in a moment, notice of inquiry, which I'll also delve into a little bit. Then you've got some statements from the chairwoman here, and then three other commissioners, dissenting statement from Commissioner Carr, who's a Republican, and then you've got a couple of other statements here that are in support. A short one, actually, one very short one in there in support. But those are also in the notice of inquiry at the end, so you can just download. If you wanted to get what I'm looking at, you can download this one and this one. And again, these are at the end of the notice of inquiry. So let's take a look first at the press release here, the news release. So you see FCC to review customer support offered by broadband cable and phone providers. Broadband cable and phone providers to consumers, explores simple cancellation tools, transparent automatic renewal practices, access to live representatives, and improved accessibility. So there's some things in here that certainly consumers are not happy with sometimes, with not just telecommunications companies, but all kinds of companies. You know, if you've got, especially for example, automatic renewals, if you sign up for something, you forget about it, and then suddenly you're being charged for that on a monthly basis. That's usually what it is. Or it could be an annual basis where you sign up for something and then a year passes, you really haven't used it, and then suddenly you're paying for that again for another year. So there's those things. There's there's all of the usual things you hear about the big bad cable company. You know, as far as you want them to come out and do some work, and then they never show up. Those kinds of things. So those things are covered, and there are actually some, as we'll see here, there are actually some rules that cable operators are already under here, but what they're looking for here is to see if some of these rules should be applied to broadband and voice service providers. And that's something that, and some of the things that they talk about, these are things that, if you are a free market kind of person, that you would hope the free market would take care of. So, as far as the level of customer service that two broadband operators provide, for example, hopefully the consumers would pick between various benefits that they have and features from each company, and customer service being a big factor there. Now, if there's no competitor, that's something, because then that monopoly company, so to speak, in that territory could treat customers however they want, and there's nowhere else for them to go. We're seeing less and less of that, certainly with what we have now with fixed wireless access across much of the country. Lots of areas that used to be just, for example, an incumbent cable company or an incumbent phone company now have also a competitor from somebody like T-Mobile or Verizon or AT&T on 5G fixed wireless. Of course, there's satellite pretty much everywhere, although that's going to be far more expensive generally than a wired provider. Although an incumbent provider, has to consider the fact, if they're going to charge too much for this service, that suddenly they're, and I've seen this before, where they're suddenly in the realm or even higher than Starlink might be, if they feel like we're the only game in town, we can charge what we want. So again, as we have more competition, I think the free market will be working the way it should in all areas. But right now, I think it works the way it should in areas where you've got more than one operator, because people are making their decisions based on the kind of customer service that they can get. That's one of the factors that they make their decision on. And if it's not that important to them, or they're getting fairly good service, then it's not an issue, and we don't necessarily need to regulate it. So again, they may be reaching here. Again, it's just at this point, it's just a notice of inquiry. But certainly some of these things could be and should be handled by the free market. So you can see here, again, I'll look at the notice of inquiry, but some of the things that they're seeking comment on would be simple cancellation, providing more cancellation options and better disclosure of cancellation practices at the point of sale and on bills. So when you sign up, how easy is it to cancel? Automatic renewal of service, as I mentioned, access to live representatives. This is one where, as they start to get into these areas, you're talking about potentially increasing the cost of a business's operation. If you start saying, some may not want to have live representatives. Let's take an open access network, for example. You might have an open access network that offers service, and operators can come on there and operate their or market their service, their broadband service, over that network. and they're going to offer different levels of service. Some may say, hey, we have 24/7, you can call us, our hold times are less than a minute. And the other one may say you can get support through our online chat and email, and then maybe that one is less expensive. So the consumer has a choice between less expensive and more expensive and better customer service. So that's one of the things that can differentiate providers. And if you're gonna raise everybody's costs, I don't think that's a good idea. Again, that's where the free market seems to me should be playing a role here. Installation, outage, and service calls, extending cable operator installation, outage, and service calls rules. So those are already in place, where you're supposed to have certain hours that if you say you're going to be there, you need to be there within a certain window. Those kinds of things. And they're wanting to maybe extend that to broadband. Individuals with disabilities, improving the accessibility of customer service resources for those individuals. Expanded cable customer resources. So again, that's about cable, really more about cable TV. So let's take a look at this is the notice of inquiry. So you see here, strengthening customer service in the communications industry. So this was adopted on October 10th. It was released yesterday. Comment date. So if you want to get your comments in on this, and you probably do if you're an internet service provider, and you may want to if you're a consumer, and go, yeah, this sounds great. Your comment date is November 22nd. The reply date, this is when the FCC would come out with their replies to the comments, is December 9th. 2024. So interestingly, this is all after the election. So you can get your comments in. They'll be coming in after the election, but before the new administration would take over, that being either the Kamala Harris administration or the Donald Trump administration. And whoever that is will make a significant difference in whether this goes anywhere, which I'll talk about here as we go through it. So again, table of contents. I've got some things highlighted here I wanted to cover. So a little background. It mentions the fact that cable operators have been under some of these things already. In the Cable Television Consumer Protection and Competition Act of 1992, Congress, in order to provide increased consumer protection, amended Section 632 of the Act to grant the Commission authority to adopt customer service standards for cable operators. So they've already got their hand in here on the cable operator side. They're wanting to extend that to broadband operators, voice providers, and I guess satellite TV is not covered by that cable side. So the statute requires that at a minimum, the Commission sets standards addressing cable system office hours, telephone availability, installations, outages, service calls, and communications between the cable operator and the subscriber, including billing and refunds. At that time, the Commission declined to adopt any additional standards in areas not specified in the statute. However, the Commission reserved the right to revise and supplement the standards to ensure that customer service satisfaction is achieved nationwide. So they're looking at doing that and maybe extending what they've done on the cable TV side, and then again rolling this out for satellite services like DirecTV, and then also telecommunications services. It mentions some of the things that they've already done that they feel has given them kind of a foundation to build on. In 1999, the Commission adopted truth in billing requirements to address growing consumer confusion related to billing for telecommunications services. It's got a few other things it mentions in here. The National Consumer Protection Week 2024, Customer Service Practices. On March 1st, 2024, the President issued a proclamation declaring March 3rd, 2024 through March 9th National Consumer Protection Week, and called upon government officials, industry leaders, and advocates across the nation to share information about consumer protection and provide our citizens with information about their rights as consumers to defend themselves from predatory acts. As part of the proclamation, the President noted that difficult cancellation processes for subscription services can lead to unwanted charges. Again, a lot of that quite often is related to apps you sign up for, other kinds of monthly subscriptions, those kinds of things. But certainly there are some things, I don't know, some automated or automatic charges on your cable account. That could be the same for any utility account. You could go into your online billing and say, yeah, I want to have this automatically come out of my checking account each month, or maybe there's a way that they charge your credit card each month. So that's really all businesses there can do things like that. And then some of the discussion here. And I mentioned here, free market competition could solve this issue. I want to make sure that I did cover that, and I put the little note here. But consumers are frustrated, specifically here, for example. Consumers are frustrated with customer service and often are hindered from managing their service plans, including by disputing charges and canceling unwanted services. When they lack the ability to communicate in an easy and timely manner with their service providers, Consumers file thousands of complaints with the Commission each year relating to cancellation of service, unavailability of service representatives, and automatic renewal of subscription services. And I didn't look at this note, and I'm not sure if they're talking about everybody, every business, or just the telecom industry, probably every business. As the Commission has now confirmed previously, the competition and market incentives work most efficiently. And again, it's talking about market incentives here. When consumers know the terms of service before picking a provider, can quickly resolve service and billing issues, and can easily change service providers when they're dissatisfied with their current service provider. If you have no competition, you can't change. If you do have competition, then you may want to change, and hopefully you can change. But I guess they're saying here it might be difficult sometimes to cancel your service. It's going to be, I think it's always going to be more difficult to cancel than it is to sign up. And there are reasons for that, and I think they want to make it as easy to cancel as it is to sign up. But there are reasons, again, trying to give some leeway to the businesses. There might be reasons why it's not quite as easy. It shouldn't be hard though, right? So it shouldn't be where you want to cancel. You've got your cable TV service, you've got your broadband service, and you try to call and nobody picks up the phone, and you've got other issues where you can't do it online. Nobody calls you back. That's not good. It's not good customer service. And then, obviously if you want to switch and you can't, that's a problem. But in general, I don't think we see that too much. The Commission has not adopted customer service requirements for DBS, it's satellite, I believe, voice and broadband services, although consumers of such services face similar challenges in addressing customer service issues as cable subscribers. We thus inquire whether we should review our existing customer service standards for cable operators and explore whether to establish standards for DBS, voice, and broadband. In doing so, we seek comment on whether and how the Commission's customer service standards keep pace with technological and business advancements within the communications industry and are effective in providing subscribers with basic protection. Specifically, we seek information on existing customer service practices, including whether subscribers can cancel service in simple and direct ways, reach a live representative when they have questions or concerns, and avoid automatic renewal of services that they do not wish to retain. So they're going to get these comments. They're both seeking, I think they're going to be seeking, what is the state of the industry right now, and probably suggestions and how people feel about maybe some of the suggestions or recommendations that they're putting forward here. So first, a simple cancellation. It appears that service providers often make it simple to sign up for the service, but limit the ability of subscribers to cancel that same service. What's more, some service providers may require subscribers to cancel service by phone on lines with limited operating hours and extended wait times before connecting to a live agent who can process the cancellation request. And there are always going to be times when you're going to have hold times. Again, you don't want the government regulating how many people you have to have, because that is significantly affecting the cost of a service provider. So my recommendation here would be just make sure that maybe you have a line that takes sales requests as well as cancellation requests, because they're going to want to make sure people can get to the sales department. And if they can get to the sales department, they should be able to get to the customer service department that would handle any kinds of issues, whether it's a billing question or wanting to cancel a service. That should be pretty much equal as far as how easy it is to get to those folks. Adding such limitation or restrictions to customer service or support hinders the ability of customers to cancel services, and thereby impairs the functioning of the competitive marketplace by making it difficult to switch service providers. Furthermore, if a consumer has a language barrier or disability, limiting cancellation options may create additional unique hardships. So again, here's something that they're kind of putting up a trial balloon there on: do broadband operators and these other companies need to have bilingual or multilingual customer service representatives working? And that's another significant driver in cost, because you can't just hire one person who speaks Spanish. You'd have to hire multiple people if you're going to be taking multiple calls. And that person, you don't want somebody just sitting there. They'd have to be bilingual. You want them just sitting there waiting to talk to somebody who's Spanish. They got to be able to deal with English-speaking customers. And again, that's just one language. So what do you do there? I'm not sure what they're trying to accomplish with that. Again, that is a factor of where is the business located? How many Spanish-speaking people do they have, or Asians? Let's say I'm trying to think. Could be Chinese. Particular area that's got a higher population of Chinese folks, so they would want some people there that speak that. That's going to be based on the business. You can't have people sitting around in an area where it's mostly English-speaking people, So I'm not sure what they're going to find there, what they're seeking to find out there. We confirm whether service providers make available simple and direct. We seek to confirm whether they make available simple and direct cancellation methods for their subscribers. If not, we seek comment on whether there are reasons to explore whether covered service providers should offer more than one mechanism to cancel subscription services, including cancellation mechanisms that mirror any available method that consumers can use to subscribe to the service. For example, if a consumer can subscribe to a service using the service provider's website, we seek comment on whether they should also be allowed to cancel their service using the service provider's website. Click to cancel. Alternatively, should service providers allow customers to cancel using the service provider's website in every instance, regardless of the methods available to subscribe to the plan? So I guess what they're saying there is if somebody can't sign up for the service via the website, then maybe the service provider doesn't need to provide the ability to cancel the service that way, only if they make it available to sign up. But again, there's a reason not to do that, which I'll mention here in a minute. I remember putting a note, and it might have been more relevant at that point. There's a reason to not force that on operators. We also see comment on whether service providers clearly and conspicuously disclose how subscription services can be canceled at the point of sale and on billing statements. Again, that is pretty easy to implement if you want to put that on a billing statement or on a website. To cancel your service, call here or send us an email, put on the billing statement as well. Where a subscriber must cancel service by speaking to a live representative by phone, regardless of the method used to subscribe to a service, we seek comment on any limitations imposed on their ability to do so. For example, what are the days and hours of operation when such cancellation requests must be made? How long on average does it take from the time the subscriber calls until they reach a live representative to cancel their service, including any time spent on hold or working through support menus? And here's what my note was. So, have there been any significant industry changes over the last decade that have impacted the ability of subscribers to cancel their service? For example, have technologies advanced to more readily allow consumers to cancel a service by phone or other automated means without having to talk to a live service representative? To what extent, if any, has the recent COVID-19 pandemic or other circumstances had an impact on the ability of service providers to staff customer service lines with live reps? So you see here my note, operators want to be able to save the account. That's something that every business wants to do. If somebody's canceling the service, generally what happens, and I understand the reason for this, is they will switch you over to a customer retention representative, or sometimes that representative that's talking to you. If you normally call them about a billing issue, and then you say, hey, I need to cancel my service, they might be the same person. Or sometimes, like I say, the bigger companies will transfer you to a customer retention representative, and then they try to keep you. And this is quite often the case, let's say, with the large cable operators, seem to be the ones that are still just the ones that are doing this now, I think, but where you have a good price that you come in on, you've got your broadband service and maybe a bundle of pay TV and broadband and even phone service, and it's a very good price. You sign up, and then a year later, that term is over, and then suddenly you look, and instead of being being $80 a month for those three services, now it's $150 a month. And then you have to call, and you say, I'm canceling my service. It's ridiculous. And then you go to the customer retention person. They say, well, let me look. And then you start hearing the tap of the keys, and it's like, well, let me see what offers we have right now. And then they offer you something else, and they might offer it to you for 6 months or whatever. So you got to keep doing that. But again, I've never had a problem getting to that person generally when I've needed to do that in the past. So you can get to that person, but that's kind of the game they play. But again, my main point here is that you don't want to take that away from these companies where if somebody's canceling the service, I think every company wants the option to see if they can keep that business. They want to get information as to why somebody's canceling. That's good for that business to know. So I suppose that could be on a form, where somebody fills it out, and you can have something in there that says why you're canceling their service. And I suppose you could follow up with them, if you see something that says, we hated your service stunk. I suppose you could make proactive outgoing calls, but you've lost the account at that point. Maybe there's a misunderstanding where you could save that account. Somebody doesn't understand something, or you can explain something to them. It's like, oh yeah, we were aware of that, and we're putting in a new backbone connection. It'll be up next Monday. We expect things to improve significantly. So you can try to save that account. And that's good for consumers as well, because it's a hassle to switch providers. So if you can find out that your service provider is going to make a change and resolve something that's been an issue for you, you'd probably want to stay with them. And it's good, I think, if the business could explain that to you. The process of returning rented equipment to service providers represents a critical part of canceling service. Should the process of equipment return upon cancellation be subject to similar standards of disclosure and reasonable methods for the same consumer protection reasons discussed above? Some consumers have complained about the burden of returning options presented to them that would require they travel hours to the nearest provider, retail location, or post office. And again, disclosures are not expensive for businesses to put into place. So again, if you need to have something on your page where people order service, where it says when you cancel, you'll need to return the equipment, and here are the ways that you can do that. I remember when I canceled with Comcast, I had to drive to a Comcast office, which wasn't that far. But then I sat there, put in my name, sat there while I called other people. I don't know if they called me later because I was canceling my service, but you have to wait, and then you give them the equipment back, and then they cancel your account and you're gone. And I don't remember them trying to save my account there. I think they realized at that point, with the equipment in my hand and the cables and the remote, that I was not going back to plug all that stuff back in. But I remember I did call. Obviously, I called the company before to find out how I needed to cancel and what I needed to do. And I think they did try to save my account at that point a couple of times. And as far as, this equipment, it's kind of a pain. So it's just like anything. I've still got a satellite dish on the top of my house that they told me I didn't need to return, but it's still sitting up there. And it's way too high for me to go try to get it down. At some point, when I get a new roof or new gutters, I'll have somebody take it down at that point. But yeah, what do you do with that? I did have to return, I think I did return the set-top box. But you got to ship that back or bring it somewhere to get that taken care of. That is kind of a pain, but that's just kind of the price of doing business, the cost of doing business with a company that sends you equipment. They send it to you, and you have to send it back. Are there other considerations that we should take into account? For example, how might updated customer service standards regarding cancellation impact smaller entities? So they're, again, depending on what you have to do here, this could impact, especially a smaller operator, could impact their costs. If they have to suddenly hire more live agents, or as I mentioned, bilingual or multilingual people, that can make a difference. So that's something that they're seeking comment on. And by the way, we provide technical support. I think we provide some customer service kinds of things that we do with, video, for example. We can do more than, let's say, dispatch service, where we can help people on a customer service side if their pay-per-view isn't working, something like that. We can provide those kinds of services, mostly tech support. If this passes, we'll probably start providing more customer service kinds of things that we can do on an outsourced basis, because there'll be a need for it. But that would be something specifically that could be difficult for smaller providers if they have to start beefing up their customer service staff. But again, if you're a smaller provider and you're having issues with technical support and keeping up with those calls, check us out at zquorum.com, because we can help you there. Any kind of provider, whatever size you are, reach out to us. We have been doing that since 1995, since the days of dial-up. We've been handling technical support for internet. Should we extend customer service? Oh, wait a minute, sorry, here. Are there other considerations we should take into account? For example, how might updated customer service standards regarding cancellation. I just said that. Should we extend customer service protections to all customers, including enterprise customers, or conversely, should they be limited to only individual consumer customers? We see comment on these and any other possible solutions in this context that would advance customer service protections without creating undue burdens on service providers. So I'm glad they're trying to keep that in mind, because there's some things in here that could definitely be undue burdens. And let's not forget that as the government gets involved in these things and they start making these unfunded mandates on different things that are going to increase the cost of the broadband operator, then that's going to increase the price to the consumer. I mean, the broadband operator is not going to eat that. So if they have to hire more people, then the cost of the broadband service is going to go up. So we need to keep that in mind, that there may be unintended consequences, but easy to see consequences if the government is too heavy-handed in their regulations and the rules that they put forward. Access to live representatives. We see comment on whether service providers offer live customer service representative support by phone within a reasonable time frame. Consumers are understandably frustrated when they need to speak to a live customer representative to resolve their service or billing issue, but are unable to do so because the service provider does not provide access to a live agent, or they must wait on hold for extended, periods of time, receive a busy signal, or navigate confusing menu list to eventually reach a live representative. That is really frustrating, isn't it? I mean, if you've ever, oh my gosh, sometimes you call and you go through this phone tree, and sometimes that phone tree loops you back to where you started from. It's very frustrating. So that would be nice if they could fix that. But again, that's more of a, it's more of just something. It's like you get frustrated with this one provider, and then if you get frustrated enough, along with maybe other things that are frustrating, like the service isn't very reliable, then you switch, if there's hopefully somebody to switch to. But I don't know how you mandate. Are you going to mandate what the call trees are going to look like? Are you going to have certain minimum numbers of times that people can press a button to determine what they want? That's a little heavy-handed. Let's see, where was I? I got frustrated, and then we'll see comment on what time frame would be reasonable for these purposes. Commission rules already require that cable operators maintain an active local toll-free or collect telephone access line with trained representatives to be able to respond to callers during normal business hours, after which time the access line may be answered by a service or an automated response, including an answering machine. I didn't realize that a lot of these requirements were in place for cable operators. So they've already, like I said, they already got their hands deeply in that, and they're trying to extend that into the broadband and the voice provider industry here. The rule also requires that under normal operating conditions, neither initial call wait time nor transfer time shall exceed 30 seconds, and that callers receive busy signals less than 3% of the time. The rules also provide that customer service center and billing payment locations must be open, at least during normal business hours, in conveniently located areas. Do cable operators meet these obligations? So they're asking that question. I don't know. I had no idea that these requirements were in place. But again, if you are telling a business that you need to answer the phone within 30 seconds and you need to, your hold times need to be a certain length, you are automatically increasing their cost of business if they're not already doing that, right? So if the transfer time exceeds a minute and the customers, it's not that much of a difference to the customer. If you're going to make it 30 seconds, you're going to increase you're going to have more people. You're just going to have to operate your business differently. It's going to cost you more. So again, that means price of the service goes up. In effectuating our goal that video, voice, and broadband customers have access to a live agent within a reasonable amount of time, should we consider extending our cable service, customer service requirements to DBS, satellite, voice, and broadband service providers? We seek comment on harmonizing these requirements, including what constitutes a reasonable amount of time to provide access to a live agent in this context. All right, again, very, very heavy-handed, getting in the middle of what how a business operates on the customer service side. Should we explore whether to allow customers to dial 0 to reach a live agent? What is the current process consumers have to follow before reaching a live representative? What options are available for consumers to receive a callback? And how can consumers ensure that a callback occurs at a time that is convenient to them? Should there be an established expectations about a time frame in which a consumer may reasonably expect to receive a callback? Wow. Once a consumer expresses a desire to be placed in contact with a live representative, what are the average wait times before they can begin to communicate with that representative? Do providers address customer concerns and questions expeditiously, or are customers experiencing extended wait times or being asked to pay a service fee to skip call wait times? Well, all of these are very, very individual to the business. And again, this is what differentiates one business from another, and it's a reason why a consumer would choose one business to another, depending on how bad the customer service is or how good the customer service is, or if the customer service is reasonable enough where it's not that important and the consumer would rather have a lower price, those kinds of things. So, and this question of being asked to pay a service fee to skip call wait times, I don't know that I've seen that other than maybe in a residential versus business kind of service. So you might have residential service and you have your standard customer support, or you have business service and you get expedited support because you're a business. You're paying that broadband operator more per month for your service, and they will provide you faster access to customer service. I'm not sure I've seen that other than that in this business. Here, too, we see comment on privacy issues related to updated customer service requirements regarding access to live representatives. Do service providers or their vendors routinely record customer interactions with IVR systems? That's the phone system. to help train those systems. So that would be to help train those systems. Generally, you'll record customer interactions to train service representatives so that the supervisor and the manager can listen to those calls and say, hey, you did a good job here, but you missed telling them about this, or we need to increase your training on this particular concept of maybe it's Wi-Fi support, something like that. So that is used, but I think they're talking about actually maybe even the AI, which, right here, they mentioned that. So for quality training, in either case, are callers afforded notice and the opportunity to consent to such recording? And interestingly enough, it depends on the state. Like here in the state of Georgia, you don't need to tell somebody that they're being recorded because only one party needs to know, and that could be the party that's doing the recording. It's going to vary by state, but most companies will. A lot of times you'll hear on the front side of the message, it'll say, this call may be recorded for training purposes, kind of thing, right? So does that notice or consent disclose the purpose for which the recording may be used, whether it may be used to train AI systems, which I'd not heard that generally. That would be interesting that you could train an AI system with the actual recording itself. I would think you'd have to, maybe somebody listens to the recording and then they train the AI system from that. I don't know. But that's interesting. But I think it's interesting to get that comment, but I'm not sure where that leads to as far as future rules, if they do a notice of proposed rulemaking based on this notice of inquiry. We also see comment on to what extent, if any, emerging AI technologies would impact a requirement that service providers offer live customer service support. And I know that AI is becoming more prevalent in these situations where you could, for example, rather than choose, and again, this is an option, which is good, but rather than choose to speak to a live agent, you could go to their AI assistant and it'll say, hey, what's your problem? What's happening? And you can type in something and it'll say, well, have you tried this or have you tried that? Because it has been trained by either a real person or maybe a voice call. And it's generally going to be a real person who knows it, who said, okay, if I get this question, here would be my responses, And the usual response is reboot your modem. That's actually the first thing sometimes that some service representatives will tell people to do before maybe getting any information, because a lot of times that solves the problem. It's not a good thing to do until you've gotten some feedback from the customer, but that's the way that some support organizations do that. And if so, should the use of such technologies be permitted as a full or partial alternative to providing access to a live service representative? So they're trying to find out here is the AI going to be good enough where we don't need live agents? But of course, there's nothing like that personal touch of a real person. Not a personal touch, but it's nice to be able to talk to a real person, because at least so far the AI is not that intelligent. It's pretty artificial, but there's things that you want to know, and there's things you want to tell the system that it doesn't know, and those kinds of things. It's not the best. So I think you still need live agents. Are there specific issues relating to the ability of non-English speaking consumers or individuals with disabilities to reach a live representative that we should be aware of and or could address? For example, do providers currently have customer service lines dedicated to communicating with non-English speaking subscribers or individuals with disabilities? And they talk about here the DVC support lines and use of ASL. So that DVC, that's a video, basically a video, I think digital video call, where you get on a video call and then somebody with American Sign Language is there to help you with your problem. So again, how expensive would that be for a service provider if they had to provide that? Now, in a situation like that, where I could see companies springing up that would specialize in outsourcing that. So when you had a caller who had a disability, they were deaf, for example, then that call would be switched to an outsourcing company that you could make that digital video call on, and they would have somebody standing by for not just that one service provider, but maybe hundreds, because how many of those calls might they get? So you've got people standing by that could then help with that. So those are some ways that if this comes down where you have to do that, that's an industry I see popping up right there. We also see comment on whether service providers integrate customer service mechanisms to avoid bouncing consumers from one menu list to another in a time-consuming effort to obtain resolution of a service or billing issue. Again, that's very frustrating, I know. Consumer may call a customer service line and work through the support menu only to find themselves transferred to another customer service line on which they have to begin anew, to work their way through a complex maze of menus, repeating their concern each time before they're able to gain access to the customer service mechanism. that they require to resolve their issue. That happens, and sometimes it's that you talk to people and they've transferred you to somebody, and then you have to repeat the same thing over and again, and the same thing over again. And what I find funny is when they have a phone system where they collect a lot of information, like your account number and your birth date and the last four of your social security to identify who you are, and then you get on the phone with the person, they say, I need to identify who you are. So then they're asking you the same thing that you just punched in the phone. That's a little frustrating as well. How often are consumers transferred from one method of customer service resolution, for example, a chat bot and automated tools, to others in an effort to resolve their issue? Do service providers track the efficiency of customer service process to ensure that consumers are not trapped in a complex maze of support menus before their issue can be resolved? So one of the things that this notice of inquiry does do is for those that this might impact is they could be looking at this and going, hey, are we doing a good job with this? They might check their phone system. Maybe this is a question that will prompt them to check their phone system, to go in and pretend they're a consumer, go through the process and go, you know what, this stinks. We need to fix, we're going through this circle of things and it's a loop. And so that is one good outcome that could come from this, is that people may check on their customer service processes and see if that is gonna, if they need to fix that, regardless of whether, because nobody wants, you don't want your consumers to be frustrated. I suppose there are some evil companies that might want to make it really frustrating and hard for somebody to cancel their service, right? But I think people in general, they want customers, if they're calling with a billing issue or even if they're calling to cancel, to be able to have a good experience, right? So it would be good if they knew that. So they should be checking this out on their own, but this is a way to maybe prompt them to do that. Would it be helpful for service providers to make such feedback public to allow consumers to assess which service providers are most responsive to customer concerns? So does that mean making the fact that your phone system stinks public? I don't know what they're talking about there. During calls, consumers may need to state and restate identifying credentials like an account number or security code to proceed with a call. To what extent are customer service mechanisms integrated to avoid requiring consumers to repeat their credentials or concerns multiple times before reaching a resource that can address and resolve their concern? Again, that's a big pain. And again, companies should be looking at that and fixing that on their own. There don't need to be rules from the government that say you must do this. Finally, we seek comment on consumer experiences and expectations regarding physical customer service centers and billing payment locations. Do customers find these centers to be conveniently located and open during normal business hours? If not, should we consider addressing the situation? So this is going to vary depending on the size of the provider. If you are with a small community owned operator or a independent cable operator or phone company operating in a small community, they generally have an office there. In fact, people like to go there and chat with the people that are working there. They'll go there to pay their bill. So that's why these local companies are quite often very popular with their customers. So, but if you're a large operator, are you going to have a office in every single town? Or that's going to be a significant cost if you need to do that. Installations and outages and service calls. We see comment on whether we should review customer service practices regarding installations, outages, and service calls. The Commission's existing standards for cable operators provide that 1, standard installations will be performed within 7 business days after an order is placed. 2, under normal operating conditions, the cable operator will begin working on service interruptions promptly and no later than 24 hours after the cable operator becomes aware of the interruption. Again, I was not aware of any of these rules. 3, the appointment window for service calls and installations must be at a specified time or at a maximum a 4-hour time block during normal business hours. However, the operator may schedule service calls and other installation activities outside of normal business hours for the express convenience of the customer. And yeah, the 4-hour block, I've certainly seen that when calling for service. Any operator cancellation of an appointment must occur before the close of business on the business day prior to the scheduled appointment. And 5, representatives of cable operators running late for an appointment must contact and inform the consumer of the delayed arrival and, if necessary, reschedule the appointment at a time convenient for the customer. So maybe that stuff's, I guess those things are in place. Now, whether every operator, cable operator in this case, is doing that, I don't know. Given the increase in self-installations by customers, should there be any standards regarding self-installations of cable service? And this is talking about cable, including assistance to customers should the customer confront difficulties, and should we explore whether it would advance the interests of voice, broadband, and satellite TV subscribers to consider similar standards for those service providers? For For example, should we explore key terms as defined in the cable context, such as standard installations, interruptions, outages, when applied to other services? Do these services require the same type of physical at-home work as cable? Yeah, broadband quite often is very similar to cable as far as you've got wiring to run, you've got something coming into the house. There's a point where it comes into the house. It's wiring going through there. Very similar. You've got a piece of CPE, customer premises equipment, that goes there, whether it's a cable modem or your broadband device. So yes. Automatic renewal of service or price increases. Service providers often advertise discounted trial or promotional periods to entice customers to subscribe to their services without clearly disclosing future price increases or automatic renewal of such services absent an affirmative act by the subscriber. Now, the new broadband consumer labels are supposed to have that on there. If I recall that if you have a promotional price, you're supposed to have on there how long it is and what the price goes up to after that. Consumers who sign up for a trial or promotional period while providing the service provider with a credit card or billing information risk being automatically renewed or unable to unsubscribe because they lack notice of that the trial or promotional period is ending and often must affirmatively opt out to avoid extension of the service. We see comment on whether service providers interpret a consumer's silence or failure to take an affirmative act as consent to extend a trial period. And my gut reaction there is yes, it probably is assumed that they're going to continue, because we've all seen that where you sign up for something and sometimes it goes on. Now, quite often if it's a good business, they will send you an email or text or something and saying, hey, just letting you know your service term is done and we're going to charge your card again. Let's say an annual kind of thing. They don't do that monthly, so that's the thing. But if it's an annual kind of thing, you get something that says, your annual service is up and we're getting ready to charge your card. So they'll let you know. We see comment on, let me just finish that. So if so, we see comment on whether consumers should be provided with notice and a reasonable opportunity to end any such service before incurring any new or increased cost. Again, I think that's a good idea, and it's not costly to the service provider unless they are counting on people forgetting and collecting money for a service that the person doesn't really want and isn't really using. In the case of certain kinds of subscriptions. I mean, if it's a TV service or broadband service, they're using it. But in general, again, notifications, those kinds of things are not costly. Being able to send a text or an email or a letter or something like that is not that big a deal. So that's something that is, I think, a good rule, and it's not something that would be overly burdensome on any operator. The Commission recently adopted customer service requirements for cable and satellite TV providers related to introductory or discounted pricing. Specifically for introductory or limited duration prices, such providers shall state on subscribers' bills the date the price ends by disclosing either the length of time that the discounted price will be charged or the date on which a time period will end that will result in a price change for video programming and the post-promotion rate 60 and 30 days before the end of any introductory period. The rules further require that if providers include price and promotional materials, if part or all of the aggregate price is limited in time, then the provider must state the post-promotion rate is calculated at that time and the duration of each rate that will be charged. So again, just transparency on when the discount ends and how much it's going to cost when it does. We see comment on whether similar standards for voice and broadband service providers to obtain the explicit consent of the subscriber to continue the service after a trial or promotional period is expired, and to provide clear and conspicuous notice to the consumer prior to any proposed increase in subscription costs or service rates resulting from the expiration of any trial or promotional period for that service would benefit subscribers of those services. That's true. That would benefit, and again, not a big burden. Individuals with disabilities and speakers of English as a second language. Again, this is a big burden, and I'm not sure where this is going. The Commission's accessible customer service rules apply to telecommunications and advanced communication service providers and equipment manufacturers, as well as to manufacturers of covered digital apparatus designed to receive or play back video programming. Such providers and manufacturers must provide customer service that is accessible to and usable by people with disabilities under these acts here, or under that act. The term usable is interpreted to mean that documentation, customer service, and technical support provided to consumers must be accessible to people with disabilities. The Commission requires telecommunications and advanced communications service providers and equipment manufacturers to ensure access to information and documentation it provides to its customers if achievable and readily achievable. We seek comment on ways in which we can improve the accessibility of customer service resources from service providers for individuals with disabilities. The service providers make customer service support available in ASL and DVC. Again, that's American Sign Language and direct video calling. Is installation, outage, and service information easily accessible to people with disabilities? If not, are there ways that we might facilitate the provision of such information? That we might facilitate, or that doesn't mean they're going to require it. So I don't know what that means. Other than, again, they're going to turn this into some kind of notice of proposed rulemaking when they receive all these comments, depending on when that comes out. I'll explain that in a minute. So regarding English-speaking language speakers, how do all the issues we raise in this notice of inquiry impact consumers that do not primarily speak English? Are there other considerations regarding these consumers that, that's English as a second language, sorry. Are there other considerations, are there other considerations regarding these consumers that we have not included here? Then they have some stuff on cable-specific issues I won't go into. I think that's it. Waivers, procedural matters. Yeah, that's pretty much it. And as far as filing comments, again, the dates are at the very front end of this that I went over. You can look at the document. But you file through their electronic comment filing system, and there's information on that. There's also paper filers here. You can hand deliver it or messenger deliver papers to the commission. So there's information about that. Then we've got the statements. So you've got Jessica Rosenworcel, the chairwoman of the FCC. I'm not going to go through these. You can read them if you want. You got Commissioner Brendan Carr. He's a Republican, and you can tell he's talking about the fact that $42 billion to expand internet, and not yet a single home or business has been connected through the internet through that program, and no construction projects. So he's kind of playing that political card right there, but also stating, you're going to see this between Republicans and Democrats, that Republicans are going to be smaller government, fewer regulations, let the free market take care of things, especially when it comes to things like how many people you need to have for customer service, what your hold times need to be, that is in the purview of the business, and competition should take care of that. So he's going to have that view, whereas others are going to be happy to see these kinds of things put in place. Here you've got a statement from Jeffrey Starks. You've got a statement from Ana Gomez. I think that was it. There might be one other statement that was on that other page. No, I think that was it. So you got Ana Gomez. Fairly short statement. I think that was it. So again, I think that this is something that may go through, and it's going to depend on. There'll be a notice of. There probably will be a notice of proposed rulemaking, depending on they're going to get all the comments in. You've got the election taking place on November 5th, I think it is, and this is getting the comments after that, and then the response to the comments in December. And then you've got January. So do they try to get something out? Let's say, do they try to get something out before the next administration? Well, the next administration, if it is Trump, would undo all of this. Because again, this is more of what I would say would be a Democratic initiative of looking to regulate businesses to provide better consumer support in these areas. And again, there's certain things that make sense in here. The things that are not burdensome, the thing like making regulations where businesses can't deceive people. These things where something is a recurring fee and it keeps hitting you. Those are good things, and requiring providers to have notice. I think those are things that are reasonable, and it's not an undue burden on the business. It's not going to have a big impact on their costs. It's not going to have a big impact on the cost to the consumer, because again, that's the consequence that you forget about sometimes. If Harris takes over, then this would probably move forward, and there would probably be a notice of rulemaking, and then we'll find out exactly, after they get the comments and they reply to those, we'll find out exactly what they're wanting to do in these areas. So a lot of it has to do with the election. And at this point, as of today, October 24th, things are leaning in Trump's direction. There's not much time left, and it's starting to lean in that direction, but things could lean back in the other direction because it's so razor tight. So we don't really know who's going to win at this point. It is leaning in Trump's direction. And if that's the case, I don't think it may never see the light of day. And if it does, I don't think it will hold up after Trump comes into office. If they do a notice of proposed rulemaking, it will never take place. So there you go. Now, again, if you are an internet service provider and you need help with technical support, look us up. You see our web address there, our email address, and our phone number. We've been providing internet support to internet providers, as I mentioned, since 1995, which is right around when I joined this company. 1995, we were doing dial-up internet support for our own dial-up internet business, and then I started providing support to other dial-up internet providers, which were phone companies at that time. A lot of phone companies were getting into it, as well as every other business you could imagine. We had a sign company. We had companies, computer companies, because all you didn't need a lot of equipment, because there were phone lines going from the phone company to the consumer and from the phone company to the sign company or the computer company. And you could provide dial-up over that. You didn't need anything really fancy to do that. So, but then, of course, DSL came out, and then cable modem service and fiber service. We've been providing broadband tech support since it's been out for both cable providers and fiber providers, fixed wireless providers. So look us up if you need help with that. We can do 24/7 tech support for you, or if you just need some assistance for after-hour support, holidays, weekends, overflow support. If you want us to take calls when your call center gets busy, we can do that. So check us out there on the web, or give us a call, send us an email. We'll be happy to help. Thanks for joining me today. I appreciate it. If you're not subscribed to our channel, go ahead and click the subscribe button, and you can make sure that little bell is rung there, and you'll be notified when I'm live. If you like this video, if you got some good information, if you'd give me a like on that, give me a thumbs up, I would like that as well. Appreciate you joining me today. I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.